You want to be kind, you want to be charitable, why do it in secret?
They don't want the constitution amendment on the GST to be passed in this session of the House.
The Parliament remains paralysed. The Land Bill report will miss the monsoon deadline, will be tabled in the winter session, but governments also say there is enough flexibility within the 2013 land law to enable private projects to be set up without consent if government owns the land. That's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. Hope is in the air for the goods and services tax. Sources say the constitutional amendment bill to facilitate the GST could be listed for discussion and pass it in the Rajya Sabha tomorrow. That's an exclusive. For the first time, Xiaomi smartphones will be made in India. Foxconn sets up a manufacturing facility in Andhra Pradesh exclusively for Xiaomi phones. Redmi 2 Prime is the first India-made smartphone. Trouble for former Telecom Minister Dayanidhi Maran. The Madras High Court cancels his anticipatory bail. Maran has 3 days to surrender in the illegal telephone exchange. The wait is finally over for the mining industry in Goa. Vedanta resumes operations after nearly 3 years. Chief Minister calls it a golden day for the state. Green shoots in Motown. Car sales grow for the 9th month in a row. A good monsoon and lower fuel prices boost demand. After nursing its discoms back to good health, Rajasthan gears up to privatize power distribution in the state. A franchisee model for select cities is also in the works, says the Chief Secretary C.S. Rajan. That's CNBC TV 18 exclusive.
Once the US Fed action is done with, I think that gets discounted as well. I think you will have an environment where there may be headroom for a rate cut.
There is room for the Reserve Bank to cut rates, says Axis Bank's Shikhar Sharma, but also says transmission of the cuts will take some time more. Welcomes RBI's flexible loan structuring norms. That's an exclusive. We can't be present in everyone's bedroom. The government clarifies its stance on pornography, and the Supreme Court says it is against a blanket ban but wants child porn sites blocked. Banned on the roads and harassed by the police. Nearly 8,000 commercial diesel car drivers in Delhi face an uncertain future after taxi aggregators were told to shut up shop. A special report coming up.
Welcome inside Chennai, CNBC TV 18.
Get ready, folks.
A steady, dependable pace. That's probably the right way to describe it. It's month to month there might be slight volatility based on which industry, which segment of the trucking industry is taking off. But overall, it's been about a 15 to 20% growth. I hope that the industry can sustain like that for the rest of the year.
Vanakkam. I bring you inside Chennai and morning call from this beautiful city of filter coffees and nutritious breakfast and snacks.
There is a price advantage and people do come from outside India for healthcare, but also we have a clinical advantage.
Well, it is all about Chennai this week on CNBC TV 18. We drive into the largest city in southern India to find out more about the established businesses, startups, sporting legends, and a lot more as we travel through India's business capitals. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. Hi, Nantara. Or should I say Vanakkam? That's what I was going to say. I beat you to it. All right, we also have a jam-packed show lined up for you. Let's go straight to the day's trading action and plenty of excitement there. It was 3 p.m. The bulls were firmly in control. The markets were steady steady in trade, but then the bears launched a late onslaught which caught everyone off guard. The Nifty cruising above 8,600 at one point, but the index finally ended the day closer to the 8,500 point, losing about 100 points. Just 30 minutes into closing, or before closing, the Sensex also lost about 100 points, and that was thanks to that last hour sell-off that we saw. The mid-caps, which had hit a record high in trade today, also ended with marginal losses, so severe volatility in the last 30 minutes of trade. Speaking of volatility, from Mumbai to New Delhi, the monsoon session of Parliament has hit the home stretch, but there is no sign of a truce between the government and the opposition. The Congress wants Sushma Swaraj to go, the government is in no mood to budge, and amidst all of this, crucial legislations could fall prey. Cracks are developing within the opposition. Samajwadi Party today said it will not support the Congress's protest, and found support among parties like the Trinamool Congress, the RJD and the Aam Aadmi Party. And in a major setback with the land acquisition bill, the parliamentary panel's report will now be tabled only in the next session of Parliament, and it seems like the government has set the stage to go back to the 2013 land bill. Meanwhile, there could be hope for the GST. You know, it's a sort of smoke and mirrors affair at this point in time. We'll get to all of those stories in just a bit, but first, here's Rahul Gandhi and Arun Jaitley's face-off in Parliament.
It was very nice to hear Sushma Swaraj ji the other day in Parliament giving a very nice speech about how we should be very kind to Mr. Modi and we should be charitable to Mr. Modi. You want to be kind, you want to be charitable, why do it in secret? Why hide? Why not tell why not tell your whole ministry? Why not tell the whole country you're doing it?
Today it is clear that when most political parties want a discussion to be held, the Congress party has taken a maximalist position that it will not allow proceedings to be held under any circumstances. On behalf of the government, we are constrained now to observe that the issue of Sushma ji is merely a pretext. The real motive of the Congress party leadership is that they don't want the constitution amendment on the GST to be passed in this session of the House.
The finance minister saying the Congress is using the Sushma Swaraj excuse to not pass the goods and services tax constitutional amendment bill, and that stand-up in Parliament is only worsening. The big question is there any hope for the GST? Sources say the centre could list it for business tomorrow in the Rajya Sabha. Sapna Das are joining us with that story. Sapna, what are you picking up? As of now, it's not listed for business in Rajya Sabha.
That's right. As of now, it's not listed, but it could find a mention in the revised list of business for Rajya Sabha. We have just spoken to Mr. Bhupendra Yadav, who has headed the select panel on the GST report that was tabled, some time back, a couple of days back. He has confirmed this news as yes, it is going to be listed in the Rajya Sabha's agenda tomorrow, and in fact, we'll be trying to reach him in a while and try and speak to him further on this issue. Now, the point here is that getting the bill listed is great news, even though it comes towards the fag end of the monsoon session. But we also have to wait and watch and see as to what happens after that. How the number crunching works out. Is a last minute miracle possible? Those are the questions that only Parliament will be able to answer tomorrow. But yes, as of now, this is absolutely confirmed that the GST bill, the GST Constitutional Amendment Bill, will be listed for the Rajya Sabha tomorrow.
That is the confirmation coming in from the head of the parliamentary panel on the goods and services tax. Remember, the parliamentary panel has already submitted its report. So the government intending to table the bill in the Rajya Sabha tomorrow. It's not currently on the agenda. As Sapna was saying, it could be brought in on the revised agenda. The question now is, will the government try and push it through in terms of passage or not? But from the GST to the land... Well, let's listen into what the Revenue Secretary had to say on the possibility of the GST bill not making it in the monsoon session of Parliament, and hence what then happens to the April 1, 2016 deadline.
So far as GST is concerned, we have to wait for what the Parliament decides on it. Now, on parliamentary proceedings, I cannot comment. We would expect the GST legislation to go through, but again, on parliamentary proceedings, I cannot comment. So far as preparation in the administrative side is concerned, as I have already stated earlier, we are taking all the administrative measures. We have taken all the administrative measures required to implement GST from 1/4/2016.
Well, that's the Revenue Secretary Shaktikanta Das there. We will revisit the GST story, but from GST to land bill, highly placed sources say the centre has set the stage for the return of the 2013 land acquisition bill, as the old law apparently now has enough flexibility. To be specific, sources say Clause 2I enables land to be acquired for private projects without consent provided, and that is if the government owns the land. Ritu joins us now with the exclusive details. Ritu, first up, the big story, of course, is that the parliamentary panel on the land bill, headed by BJP member S.S. Ahluwalia, has now decided to push the submission of the report to the winter session. So there's going to be no parliamentary panel report on the land bill in the monsoon session. We're now also getting to hear that the government, as was the case in the parliamentary panel as far as the U-turn was concerned, the government is now setting the stage for that U-turn to be formalized and perhaps go back to the 2013 land law.
The select panel meeting saw its fair share of drama. We saw some Congress members, including Jairam Ramesh, walk out of the meeting, but then again he was convinced to go back into the meeting again by his Congress colleagues. But at the end of the day, it seems the Team Congress had its say, as they convinced the chairman of the panel to delay the report of the select panel on Land Acquisition Act that will be submitted in the winter session of the Parliament now. The Congress wanted debate and discussion on two specific clauses, that is the retro clause as well as the clause related to the 5-year period in which if compensation is not paid, then land has to be returned. But at the same time, we also understand that the government is gearing up for a scenario where 2013 Act, that is the Land Act, that will be a reality, and that is with the consent clause and the SIA. But the government believes that there is a way out for the industry, and that is as far as the clause 2.1 of the Land Act of 2013 is concerned. Therein, a government can acquire land for 6 categories. And in such land which is owned and controlled by the government, in such land, private infrastructure or industrial zones can be established without worrying about consent clause. That is point number 1. Point number 2, regarding SIA, the government believes that state governments can fix time periods for the SIA. As of now, it takes around 52 weeks, but the government believes that state governments can, in the rules, specify specific time periods of 90 days or 120 days for the SIA to be completed. So net-net, the government is gearing up for a scenario where 2013 Act will be a reality, but the big question is, will the land acquisition ordinance, will that be extended for that? We'll have to wait till the end of the Parliament session. With that, it's back to you.
All right, Ritu, appreciate you joining us. So perhaps the stage being set to go back to 2013 land law, but the question now is, will the ordinance be repromulgated or not? What will be the fate of the ordinance is the big issue. But now it is confirmed, Bhupendra Yadav, the head of the GST parliamentary panel, has told us that the GST bill will be tabled in the Rajya Sabha tomorrow, and of course, we do have Mr. Yadav joining us now. Mr. Yadav, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Sir, can you confirm for us whether the GST bill, the constitutional amendment bill, will be tabled in the Rajya Sabha tomorrow for discussion and passage?
It is listed in the budget. So definitely, if it is a business.
Mr. Yadav, sorry, we can't hear you, sir. Can you just repeat yourself, please? We seem to have lost that line. We will reconnect with him, but that's the big story at this point in time. The GST bill will be tabled in the Rajya Sabha, and perhaps the government has worked out its arithmetic. We're not sure, but it looks like the government may have been able to work out its arithmetic. So leaving aside the Congress party, if the regional parties were already on board as far as the GST is concerned, the Trinamool Congress, the Samajwadi Party, the question mark was really on the CPI and the AIADMK. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, J. Jayalalitha, at her residence, and of course GST was on the agenda, and maybe he's managed to get the AIADMK on board as far as the passage of the GST bill is concerned. So maybe the government has managed to get its arithmetic right as far as the GST bill is concerned. We'll touch base with Mr. Yadav in just a bit and try and get more details on that, but that's the big story at this point in time. Let's move away from Parliament for a bit. A major setback for former telecom minister Minister Dayanidhi Maran, the Madras High Court has cancelled the anticipatory bail for Maran in the illegal telephone exchange case. Maran now has 3 days to surrender. The CBI has accused Maran of providing more than 300 high-speed telephone lines to his brother Kalanidhi Maran's Sun TV. Maran has dismissed all these allegations. Jude Sanath in Chennai joins us now with more details. Jude, it seems fairly clear that Dayanidhi Maran will approach the Supreme Court.
That's right, Shireen. The priority for Dayanidhi Maran, it seems, at least that's what sources are telling us, is to avoid arrest. So what we are hearing is that Dayanidhi Maran will indeed appeal in the Supreme Court either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. This, of course, coming in the aftermath of the Madras High Court. Justice Vaidyanathan, in fact, of the Madras High Court, cancelling Dayanidhi Maran's anticipatory bail, which he obtained on June 30th. This, of course, came in the aftermath of the CBI levelling allegations that Dayanidhi Maran was not cooperating with investigations into, of course, the illegal phone exchange case. And this, of course, has snowballed into a bigger controversy because Dayanidhi Maran has always claimed that he's being fixed in this case. So allegations on both sides, really, but the Madras High Court coming to a conclusion that Dayanidhi Maran will have to cooperate a bit more and cancelling his anticipatory bail. And what we're hearing is that Dayanidhi Maran will, in fact, appeal in the Supreme Court to avoid arrest or the prospect of having to surrender within the next 3 days to the CBI.
Okay, Jude, appreciate you joining us there with the latest on Dayanidhi Maran likely to approach the Supreme Court. But let's go back across to Bhupendra Yadav, the head of the GST parliamentary panel. Mr. Yadav, we are given to understand that the GST bill has now been listed for discussion and passage in the Rajya Sabha. Is this now safe to assume that the government has got its arithmetic right, sir, in the Rajya Sabha?
Hello.
Mr. Yadav, is it safe to assume that the government has got its arithmetic right as far as the Rajya Sabha is concerned? The TRAI chief better do something about this. Call drops. You cannot hold a conversation for 30 seconds without the network giving up on you. It's impossible to carry on a conversation. But that is the big story at this point in time. The GST panel, the chief confirming now for us that yes, indeed, discussion and passage for the GST bill tomorrow. But let's head from the capital to what's happening in Goa. Mining companies are back in business after 3 years. Vedanta has become the first company to restart iron ore mining in Goa, with the state's chief minister inaugurating the company's iron ore mine at Kodli. Vedanta says it's received all necessary clearances to resume mining operations at its Bicholim mines in Goa. The Supreme Court had imposed a ban in October of 2012 after a petition alleged widespread irregularities. CNBC TV 18's Anshu Sharma in Goa to witness the resumption of mining operations. Take a look.
Finally, after 3 years, mining has resumed in the state of Goa. Remember, in 2012, there was a mining ban imposed in the state of Goa for illegally mining iron ore. Remember, the Supreme Court has imposed a mining cap of 20 million tons per annum, and Vedanta is the largest miner in the state of Goa, has begun operation and is the first company to begin operations in Goa. The Kodli mine will resume mining from the month of August. The company says that export of iron ore will begin only next year, and it is already in talks with steel companies in China and Japan for the exports. Company has also said that it will be tough to manage margins in the iron ore business in Goa, but the company has started operation and we'll see how many buyers will come forward. Back to you.
Well, that was Anshu reporting on Vedanta restarting its mining operations. She also caught up with the Goa Chief Minister Laxmikant Parsekar and Kishore Kumar, the CEO of Vedanta's iron ore business. Both said that while this is a major step for the state and for the sector, there's a long way to go before normalcy returns.
For last over 3 years, with blanket ban on mining, everything was a standstill. Large number of people had lost their jobs. Some of them are on the verge of losing job. And unemployment problem has turned into a serious issue. And therefore, resumption of mine obviously is a golden day. And I'm much overwhelmed.
2010-11, we used to have, as Sesa Goa, an iron ore business, we had almost 10,500 employees working, and it was one of the largest private sector companies in Goa. And since the meltdown, both the contract and the permanent laborers, we have shrunk our business almost to half in terms of employment. As we stand today, we are very keen to retain the best of talents that we have. But believe me, the talent will only remain if you start giving them jobs. So I think in the next 2 to 3 years period, some of the talent that left us should come back to us.
Well, that's Vedanta. They're talking about restarting mining operations. Meanwhile, popular radio taxi firms like Ola, Uber and Taxi for Sure have been caught in a deep legal quagmire, putting a question mark on their ambitious India plans. The most recent setback is from the Delhi High Court, which last week reinforced the Delhi government's ban on cab aggregators. It also issued directions for implementation of an earlier apex court order that held that diesel commercial vehicles simply cannot ply on Delhi roads. CNBC TV 18's Shweta Kothari brings us up to date on the legal questions and reports on the uncertain fate of nearly 8,000 diesel cabs in the national capital.
On July 29th, the Delhi High Court upheld the ban on cab aggregator Ola and directed the Transport Department of Delhi to impose its ban issued on 1st of January 2015. This has left taxi aggregators like Ola, Uber and Taxi for Sure open to police action. What has further complicated matters is that Supreme Court has directed that the diesel commercial vehicles to stay off Delhi roads.
While some drivers are complaining of harassment at the hands of Delhi police, others are questioning the rationale behind banning diesel cabs while diesel passenger vehicles continue to ply on Delhi roads.
दिल्ली में जाते हैं तो डीजल की गाड़ियां बंद कर रहे हैं पुलिस वाले, तो मैं अपनी EMI, अपने परिवार का खर्चा और अपने बच्चों को जो मैंने स्कूल में पढ़ाए हुए हैं उनका कहां से भरण पोषण करूंगा।
एयरपोर्ट डोमेस्टिक यहाँ पुलिस वाले जाओ, जितना एक भाड़ा लेके जाओ 600 रुपये जेब लगा के 1200 रुपये तो उनको दे के चले आओ, नहीं तो वो गाड़ी बंद कर देंगे। गाड़ी बंद करते हैं 10,000 चालान ठोकते हैं, 1 महीने के लिए गाड़ी सीज करते हैं।
मैं दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट से और हाई कोर्ट से ये पूछना चाहता हूँ, एक उद्योगपति के घर में 10-10 गाड़ी हैं और ऐसी गाड़ी हैं जो 1 लीटर में 4 किलोमीटर 3 किलोमीटर चलती है। क्या पॉल्यूशन उससे फैलता है कि इससे फैलता है?
Passengers are also bearing the brunt of the ban.
Uber cabs or Ola cabs are very important for the local people who are traveling here because the auto wallahs are not that much regular.
Being a girl, I usually depend on cabs a lot and I find them safer. And when you ask me how will it change my life, I think it is going to change my life immensely because you can't really, in a city like Delhi, you can't really depend on auto wallahs at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m.
Ola has challenged the Delhi High Court order and is awaiting clarity as the division bench gets ready to deliver its verdict on interim relief for Ola tomorrow.
All cabs registered on the Ola platform follow the Euro 4 norms, which is obviously 2 layers above the recommended Euro 2 norms. Right. Also, on the other hand, most of these cars, in fact, all of them are definitely under, the age of 10 years. At least 25 to 30,000 drivers and their families, whose livelihoods, will be a question mark if this, judgment is going to be otherwise. Right. But I think the confidence that we have here is in terms of the social impact on the drivers as well as on the consumers.
While the case remains sub judice, the Delhi High Court has asked Delhi government whether new rules could be formulated for app-based taxi services. This mess highlights the need for dynamic regulations to keep pace with changing times. In the interim, thousands of drivers and commuters sweat it out in the national capital. In New Delhi, Shweta Kothari.
Well, so the fate of taxi cab aggregators and of course taxis that are part of aggregating businesses at this point in time uncertain in the national capital, and this really begs the question on whether regulation is keeping pace with technological changes, with the dynamics in the market. But moving on, after Bengaluru, CNBC TV 18 is inside Chennai this week and we caught up with one of the city's greatest sons, chess champion Vishwanathan Anand. Lava spoke with him on the lessons he's learned from the 64 squares.
They're also a physical sport.
Yes.
I don't mean that we move pieces. I mean that it takes a physical toll. And if you're not fit, you will notice the strain. I mean, you'll see that you start making mistakes, you're unable to work through the consequences because you keep getting tired, all that sort of thing. Now, of course, we don't have to target this muscle group or that muscle group, but you have to maintain a level of fitness. You have to have stamina for long games.
You can't afford to get exhausted.
Exactly. Now, that's probably true for any walk of life. I think it's a mistake to associate only sports, but that's the point.
Age an advantage? Young age an advantage?
When I was young, being 40 was considered a good age to play chess. People like Kochnoy were doing miracles at the age of 50. And, well, I watched him till he was 60, you know, and I played with him many times after he was 60 and so on. With Smyslow, it was even higher. Then, I think somewhere in the period when computers entered the game and things started to speed up a bit. And so the average age of the world's top started to descend.
Okay.
So what used to be in the mid-30s, then slowly, well, has trended to the point where now it's in the low 20s.
Okay.
And if you look at the top 10 nowadays, there are many guys who are, almost all of them are under 25.
Okay.
So in that sense, there's a very clear trend in chess, which is that it's getting much, much younger.
Do you think the government or the school system should do something that can improve or attract more children to the game? Or do you think this is just a natural yen and it will come whether or not you encourage it?
I think it will come whether or not you encourage it, but if you want increased participation, then definitely governments helping to promote chess in schools. I mean, one of the things I try to do with NIT is get chess into lots and lots of schools through the NIT Mind Champions Academy.
Okay.
So we try to do that always and get chess into schools. And by the way, in Tamil Nadu, it is now part of the curriculum.
Oh.
So that was a fantastic, maybe let's say landmark moment for us, and that has been maybe a couple of years now. Okay. So at least that's very good, and I think because chess is a very good training tool for children in general, I think encouraging them to at least learn the rules, learn the concepts, and play a bit, even if it's only a couple of times a week, is good for their overall growth.
The image of chess is that it's a very gentlemanly game. In many other games, you sledge, you nudge, there's a lot of gamesmanship involved. Is chess bereft of gamesmanship?
Not at all. It can be a vicious sport, except that during the game we're forced to sit still, and there are rules which stop you doing anything directly. But off the board, people try to wind each other up. All that is there in chess as well. Psychological warfare was always a big part of the game. In that sense, which unfortunately or fortunately, just like every other sport.
No, but does it help to get a killer instinct? Is it necessary at all to have the psychological war?
Definitely, because in the end, it may give you that extra motivation at some point. I mean, if you think a game is petering out, you might just want to stop. But if you really dislike your opponent, you'll force yourself to continue, not because you want to play the game, but because you hate the guy. Okay. And then suddenly, a bit later, the points can, an opportunity, he can make a mistake, an opportunity can completely arise, and you unexpectedly arise, and then you just have, and then you think, it's good that I had this feeling. You may defend bad positions a bit longer, things like that. It can work, it can also backfire.
Chess, a vicious sport. That's Vishwanath and Anand for you. On that note, it's time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. But we'll be back inside Chennai tomorrow. And of course, there's a slew of corporate earnings and lots of court action to deal with. So stay right here on CNBC TV 18. We'll be updating you live.